Hey everybody, and welcome to the Growth Experience Podcast. I am your host, Chris Dye. Our hope is that by listening to this podcast, you realize that you have a gift. And by believing in your gift, you can uncover your purpose and have vision for your life. Whether you're listening in your car, at home, or watching on YouTube, thank you for tuning in, and let's go! Hey, welcome to the Growth Experience Podcast, episode 5. Last week I said we're a whole week into this thing, and I forgot to edit it. We're a whole month into this thing. So it's been a really cool experience. Again, just reaching out to people that I look up to and admire and, want to make myself better, but as well as everybody who's listening. And so today we're sitting here with the Travis Cox. And so he's got some great information for us. I'm really excited, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem, man. Thank you. I like the Travis Cox.
That's right.
I'm about to start using that.
I would use the man, the myth, the legend for you, but I got a guy in a couple weeks who's
the man, the myth, the legend.
He's the one I have to reserve it for.
Look, I've got some time left. I can become the man,
you
myth,
get
and
there.
legend later.
We'll have you back.
Cool.
We'll have you back.
Then I'll get that tag.
That's right. So yeah, man, appreciate you coming on. I'm just super grateful for, again, we were talking about it before the episode started, and I've said it a million times, but I really have no expectations for the podcast. It's really just about connecting with people and, whoever connects with us. One of the things I love is I say there's connection and vulnerability. And so I know Bobby was on last week. If you weren't able to check that episode out, would love for having you to listen to it, or you as a listener. But he was vulnerable about some stuff that he's gone through starting his business, and just huge feedback from all of our platforms, which is really cool. So anyway, just diving right in, man. What are you about? Who are you?
I was thinking about that on the way over here, and I feel like it's a hard question to answer because I think in the last few years I've evolved so much and changed so much, and there's been so much happening in my life that I don't, sometimes I'm like, I look up, I'm like, I think I've changed again.
Right.
So it's cool because, I'm able to think about different time periods. And in this period, I'm in such a growth phase with all things in my life. Just trying to grow to one, be more centered and happy, two, be, better in business, and then also grow more businesses to help support our big life, right? So right now, I think I know I'm a person that tries hard, believes hard, and pushes others to do the same.
Yeah, and we'll talk about every single one of those. I think I don't really have any expectations for length of the episodes. I feel like this one might be a little bit longer because you're a pretty smart dude. So
appreciate
I want to milk that from you. So just your bio a little bit. Married, got a few kiddos.
Yeah. Do
this real estate thing full time.
Yeah, I was also thinking about how I could explain my current position.
Yeah.
I'm married, and I've got 3 beautiful kids, beautiful wife. We just built a house, so that's a
gorgeous house.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate that.
It is sweet.
Now here's the hard part. I don't know how to phase this out, but I'm a CEO and owner of a team that sold 225 homes last year.
Awesome.
I'm the CEO and founder of a tech startup called GreenStats, empowering realtors to keep the profit in their pocket.
Yeah.
I'm the owner of a new mortgage company called GreenCheck Mortgage Solutions.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. And I am building a few AI businesses.
Mm-hmm. I'm
an investor. I feel like I'm a habitual entrepreneur, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's the line. I'm probably missing a few things.
No, you stuck them in there. So, man, so much to unpack there, and I'm excited about doing that. We'll start with and unpack the real estate stuff first. When did you, because your dad's in real estate, right, for the listener, when did you start thinking, hey, I want to try this thing out?
I'll be quite honest, and you're probably going to love this for your podcast. I did not want to be in real estate.
I kind of had that inkling. I've never heard that from you, but I have heard that from other real estate agents' kids, right?
Yes.
That they did not want to get into the business.
I was 18. I was writing fantasy football articles. Thought I was going to be the next fantasy football genius and guru. And my dad and I'm in college. I'm going to be an FBI agent or a writer.
Okay.
And,
those are a little different.
Yeah, I love writing. That's a passion of mine. Poems, short stories, whatever.
Sure.
And you go to like do it, and you're like, I'm not sure I can make, because I have this huge life in my head, right? I want to do all this stuff, and I'm not sure that would have got me there.
Sure.
I don't think it would have.
Yeah.
Especially from what I was getting paid just to get in the entry level of like fantasy football articles and small columns on the IUS newspaper.
Yeah.
And then the FBI agent thing, I loved it. I still think that would be a cool job.
Right.
I would love to do it, but I didn't have a lot of direction in college. So my dad's like, "Hey, you're going to become a realtor and get your license. That's your backup plan."
Yeah.
And he was semi-paying and all the way paying some years for the college. So I'm like, okay.
Sure. Whatever you say, right?
Sounds good. So I took a crash course. It was 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think I slept for 75% of those 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Doug Myers was my teacher.
Okay.
And Doug Myers was really good at honking a horn and waking me up. And, I did not pay attention at all.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing, by the way.
Right.
I'm not saying it to brag, but did not pay attention at all. I passed the course test, and then I go take the state test, and I failed it 2 times in a row.
Oh, wow.
2 times in a row. And I tell my dad, I'm like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're going to finish it. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And then, my dad has this way of like really making you want it yourself.
Right.
Provoking thought in yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He's like, you can't do it. Don't tell me that.
Right.
So I study finally for the first time. I pass it.
Yeah.
And I get my license. And I'm like, all right, cool. What's next? I don't even want to do this still.
Yeah.
I'm still going to college. I'm not really even trying to drop out just yet.
Sure.
And him and Marianne Rich were on a team at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined as an agent, and I'm writing fantasy football articles still. I'm making fantasy football podcasts with my friends. I'm partying on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 18 going into 19,
Mm-hmm.
and not caring much at all about real
Yeah.
estate. I did what they told me to do. I think I sold 13 houses. Not a single one were from me. They were all from Marianne or my dad.
Yeah.
So I sold 13 houses my first like 6 to 8 months in the real estate.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of that, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go on my own. I was hoping my dad would say no, and I would like, great, I quit.
Sure.
Because I'm 19 now. I
Right.
can do what I
You
want.
gotta
right?
figure it out,
yeah.
right?
But I'm still living at my dad's house without a car that I own on my
Yeah.
own. My dad owned the car,
Right.
so I thought I had it figured it out.
Yeah.
But
That's okay. You're not the only one, bro.
yeah. But he told me yes, and I was like, are you serious? Yes. He's like, yeah, you. I don't think you can do it, but I think you should try. He said it again. I'm like, man, you gotta stop saying that.
Yeah.
That's he knew what he was doing. I didn't really realize it just yet, but he told me yes. So went out on my own, and story kind of started from there.
Sure. What year was that? Your first year in the business, 13 houses. What year was that?
2012.
Okay.
2012, yeah.
2012, and you were 19 or 18 in 2012.
I turned 19.
Okay.
So when I got my license, it was August. It was about a month before my birthday, or it was about 30 days before my birthday.
Gotcha.
So, got my license, turned 19.
I gotcha. Okay, cool. That's awesome, man. I hadn't heard that story.
Yeah.
I've actually toured the FBI building.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sweet. I mean, even when you're there, as somebody who had no desire to join the FBI, I was like, this would be pretty cool.
It was a dream job, man.
Yeah.
It still is a dream job.
Yeah. I had a buddy of mine. They're super stringent in their process.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
I
But
hope so.
Yeah, I would hope so. But when I was in the military, a friend of mine was a soldier that I served with. He was trying to get into the FBI, and I can't remember if he did or not. Ken, I'm going to ask you. But yeah, it was a really cool experience, and so it's just so funny that, like, especially, and we'll talk about this too, but like as a parent, how you can kind of like look over and see your kids and their strengths and what they desire to achieve, and know which avenue. Maybe not know, but have a good inclination of which avenue would be best for you.
For sure.
Right?
My dad knew.
Yeah.
He knew.
Right. Yeah. He's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah.
So really, he kind of, it's funny that you say that. He basically told you can't do it.
Yeah. So our family, for better or worse, is very competitive. Very, I can do it. I got this. You know, let me handle it.
Sure.
And every time he challenged one of us, man, it's on.
Yeah.
So he knew what he was doing.
Right.
He knew that I could do it. I didn't think I wanted to, but
Right.
I also had the confidence to do it.
Yeah.
So that year that I went out on my own, I didn't want him to touch anything. Like, if you're gonna challenge me, I don't want you to give me any help.
Right.
So I would not ask him for help. And we would have conversations always. So we lived together still.
Right.
So we'd have conversations, and he would end up like leaning into helping whether I knew it or not. But at the end of the day, he didn't give a single lead to me. I made a ton of YouTube videos, ton of Facebook videos before it was even cool.
Yeah.
I'm out here like, hey, I swing with the big bat, and I'm showing like the Louisville Slugger bat in the background. I'm like, call me. I'll help you buy or sell a home or best.
That's cool.
The goofiest stuff.
Yeah.
And it got to a point to where I would go to, and I was partying a lot. A dumb 20-year-old who had a fake ID.
Yeah.
So I'm going.
I appreciate that vulnerability there, and that's funny.
Just being honest.
Yeah, love it.
So I go to bars and they're like, "Hey, you make those dumb videos?" Because I'm getting like 2,000, 3,000 views on the goofiest videos you could ever make. And I called myself the Louisville Home King.
Okay.
That was my tagline.
The Louisville Home King.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm gonna go.
You should look it up.
They're probably still in the archives, aren't they?
They're definitely on Facebook. I think I deleted my YouTube.
Okay.
Because they were that embarrassing. But I'm pretty sure if you scroll through my video section on Facebook, they're on there.
Okay.
But they're awesome, and they got me 35 deals. So those videos, I had no leads coming in. I would walk around the office and ask agents like Bobby Harding, and Jimmy Welch, and some others, Becky Lush, like, hey, if you have a bunch of crappy leads, give them to me. I'll just call them. I'll give you a referral fee. And I'll tell you a couple of stories about some of those leads because it turned into a massive business for me. But
nice.
A lot of the deals were from YouTube videos and making connections at bars that, hey, you make those dumb videos. Yeah, I do. Here's my card.
Yeah.
And it would turn into a conversation, and I want to get pre-approved or whatever the case may be. And
sure.
Out of those 35, I can attribute at least 20 to those videos at a minimum.
Nuts. So it's funny that you say that. And before we started shooting, we were talking about consistency is the name of the game. That's what you said, right?
For sure.
So even something that you felt like was goofy, but you were consistent in it, I mean, that really helped you get started on your own, right?
100%. I did it twice a week.
Okay.
And I did it before I even realized it was going to work.
Yeah.
So I think I went like 6 months without really getting a ton of traction from it. But then they started to get 2,000 and 3,000 views all of a sudden.
Right.
And then I started to get those, hey, you make those dumb videos. Like, yeah, for sure. So the first 4 months, I think I closed like 3 or 4 houses.
Okay.
It just took off after that.
That's nuts.
It was an insane.
What if you had quit then? Would you be where you are today?
I like to believe I would be because
you're a competitive guy.
Well, not just that, but I was so determined to be.
Sure.
And this is I no longer feel this way, but I was so determined when I was a kid to be rich.
Yeah.
I have no clue why. You could ask my parents, my friends, family, whatever. They would say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Rich.
Yeah.
There was nothing else attached.
Right.
So I was so determined to make money in some way, shape, or form. I figured I would do it eventually. I don't think I would have had the path I've had, and obviously the lessons I've learned along the way.
Sure.
For sure. I'm glad it happened the way it did.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was terrible for the first 4 months.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a really cool story. I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah.
And I think that, the lesson in there, like digging, you have the consistency, you have determination and drive, but then at the same time, you probably to a degree enjoyed it as well, right? Like it was.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, I'm 20 years old, and I've
just traveling around shooting YouTube videos.
Yeah, dude. I haven't even bought my own house yet. I'm still living with my dad. I haven't even bought my own car yet. Yeah. It's my dad's car, or he bought for me. Yeah. And I'm not even old enough to drink a beer yet, but I'm selling houses and helping people make the largest financial decision of their life. So it was a really cool feeling for me. Yeah.
And it's so funny, man, because we talk about like in this industry, especially like mindset's everything. We talked a lot about it last week. We talk about limiting beliefs, like all those things that you just listed off. I'm hearing somebody else in the distance saying, I'm not going to start real estate because I don't have a car that's in my name. I live with my parents, and it's just like, every reason that you think you shouldn't do something is every reason why you should.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't even have a CRM.
Yeah.
I was just writing them on paper and calling them when I could.
Awesome.
Had a consistent schedule. And by the way, I only worked in the office 3 hours a day.
Wow.
Not
That's
one
your
time.
Legion, yeah?
Not one time did I go over 3 hours.
Wow.
I was there from 9 to 12. I'd go to lunch with somebody in the industry on purpose. I'd go home. If I had showings, I'd go show houses. Sure. If I didn't, I'm home.
Yeah.
I only had one listing, so
But even then, right? So yeah, this is why I knew that this episode was going to be just so good because I'm just gonna pick into these little things, right? Because where you are today is a combination of little things that built over time. So even in the consistency of being in the office from 9 to 12 every day and having that strict schedule to allow yourself the opportunity to get more clients or close more contracts, right?
I listened to a lot of podcasts at the time, and I really watched a team owner in the office named Jimmy Welch, and he did that. Yeah. So this wasn't my thought, and that's the cool thing about a lot of what I'll tell you for the rest of the podcast is I didn't come up with any of these ideas. It's just people around me. So I see Jimmy Welch in the office, and I think I've told him before, but I'm not sure he realizes how much he influenced my real estate career. My dad did as well, obviously, but I was in that rebel stage of like, I'm not going to listen to him. I'm going to listen to somebody else. Yeah. So Jimmy would prop his feet up on his desk every single day and just hammer the phones for 3 hours. Wow. He would tell everyone in the office, I'm going to lunch at 12:30. You can come with me or not, whatever the case is. And he would leave after that. I think he was gone. Wow. I mean, there were times where he was in there later, but it seemed like that was his schedule. So I emulated it. I'm like, awesome. I bought the cubicle right next to his office. He left his door open every day. Yeah. I just listened to the dude for like the first month. Yeah. I didn't even make calls. I was like, I'm just going to listen to him. Okay. He was so smooth with the way he handled objections, with the way he made conversation based off of relevant information. Right. A guy would scroll Facebook and see somebody had a birthday. Hey, I just want to call and say happy birthday. I haven't talked to you in a while. Yeah. How's everything? And what I noticed was with Jimmy is most of the conversations had nothing to do with real estate. Sure. So that I wanted to be like that. Yeah. Because I heard everybody else, hey, I'm calling because your listing expired. Hey, right. I'm calling because you inquired about a house. Right. Hey, I'm calling because you were on my website a year ago. Yep. I heard Jimmy say, hey, I'm calling because you got a new job. I'm really excited for you. Yeah. That was interesting to me. Yeah. And I've totally, that's something that we talk about on the team a lot is just call the people that, because if they're on Facebook, they've connected somehow, right? Mm-hmm. That know you, like you, trust you. Yep. And say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Haven't thought about you in a while. I wanted to see how you're doing. For sure. Right? And I think that's how I was able to tap into my sphere pretty early on when I first started as well. And that's 100% the reason why. And similar thing, right? Success leaves clues. Yeah. So I was able, Bobby, we in this tiny room, he sat right there and I sat right here. Same thing. I would listen to him on the phone, working through repair requests, calling leads, calling his sphere. And I'd be like, all right, no fear, let's go. Yeah. And I remember one time, I won't say her name because I don't have permission, but I think it was like my very first deal ever terminated, by the way. Yeah. And I haven't had many terminate after that. But the broker was an independent brokerage in Louisville. And I heard somebody chirp behind me, ask a certain question. So I asked it, and she was like, why would you ask me that? And that was the first time where I was like, oh, shoot. I'm in hot water here. I need to figure it out, right? Yeah. And so then just being able to be kind and work through things, and that's what we teach and preach now all the time. Kindness skills, just be for sure. When you're on the phone and you're talking to people, just like you said, I have sold for sale by owners. I personally have never worked with. Let me check that. I don't think I've ever worked with an expired listing. I've always gravitated more for sale by owners if I do cold calls like that. But for me, I love to talk to the people that I already know. Yeah. And that's what's helped me kind of get to the point that I am with referrals and sphere of influence and all that stuff. It's a relationship business. People forget that. Yeah. They think it's a transactional business. It's not. Right. Yep. And so all right, so you went out on your own. Your dad is still doing real estate as well.
what point did you guys, you said you were kind of in that rebellion stage. What point did you kind of like talk about like, hey, all right, maybe now we start working together?
Yeah, I think at the end of the year, I made $112,000.
Yeah. And
as a 20-year-old, that's pretty cool.
Right.
I turned 21 later that year, but at the end of that year, we were, we were having conversations throughout the year. It's like, man, you're killing it. You're killing it. You're killing it. Proud of you. And at the end of the year, he's like, okay, you've proved that you can do it, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Now I need your help with the team. Let's grow a team together. And that was appealing to me as well. Like I get a chance to work with my dad, and we're equal now. Mm-hmm. And now we're like, I don't want to say our splits were equal, but we were at least equal in, who's going to do what.
Sure.
And responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big deal for someone who's as prideful as I am. I wanted to be the equal and or better, right? Mm-hmm. And he knew that too.
You didn't want to lean on him necessarily. No. Like you wanted to contribute.
Yeah, I wanted to be one of the main contributors, and I wanted to not just transaction wise, but mm-hmm. thought wise and relationship wise. So recruiting, everything. So about the whole business, and set up a way to make it last forever.
Right.
And that was a huge deal for me to have that right now that he gave, that like, hey, you've made it. Let's do it together now.
Awesome.
That was a huge deal.
Yeah, that's really cool. So that was like 2013?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
so then you started working together. Were you partners at that time? Were you on the team?
Yeah, we were partners. We started like that same, I think it was January, honestly.
Okay.
Like I made the money, got the 1099 back, and was like, hey, let's get together. So, and there's a whole tax story behind all this too, but as a $112,000 20-year-old, I've got a $20,000 tax bill, and it was cool because like I actually had the money to pay that.
Right.
Oh my gosh! But I spent all the rest of it. It was mostly gone. I think I had like $30,000 in my bank account.
Yeah.
I spent $20,000 on taxes, so it was cool, but it wasn't. But I remember thinking like, I have enough money to pay $20,000 in taxes. This is so cool.
Yeah.
That would later turn into bite me in the butt, but
yeah. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
If you're cool with it.
I'm open book, man.
Okay.
All the way. So, but yeah, we teamed up together, and we had some large issues to start. There was some people on the team that didn't care to be on the team, didn't want to try. There were there was an admin that I won't say who it was, but it's very detrimental to the success and long-term growth of the business.
Yeah.
Not because they weren't good at their job, just because there was some back end drama or whatever. And that's what all businesses. You're gonna have somebody who eventually stirs something up.
Sure.
It's how you handle it. I think we handled it very poorly to kind of get on myself. But so we started out, and then most of the production was my dad and I.
Okay.
So I sold the next year. I sold 45 houses. He sold about 56 or 60. I can't remember the exact number. But this time I made about $250,000.
Yeah.
And giving a 21 and 22-year-old $250,000 is the worst idea in the world. The absolute worst idea in the world.
Wow.
I spent every dollar that year.
Yeah.
I had no money to pay taxes.
That's wild.
Every single, I don't even know where it went. I have no clue. We weren't tracking it.
Chick-fil-A.
I was
probably should own your own Chick-fil-A franchise.
This sounds really bad, but I was at I'm okay saying it too, because I was in such a different phase of my life.
Yeah, for sure.
I was so cocky and so I just thought I was so cool. None of my friends had a job making that much money. No one in my sphere had a job making that much money, and I would get in fights with my friends often. Like they would just say like, you either bring it down, like you can't sustain it, or talk smack about it. And then I would go back, and I would be hurtful. We'd be hurtful to each other.
Right.
But then we'd go to a bar, and I'd buy everybody drinks, and they love me again. So it was like the most toxic moment in year, really, a couple years, because of this constant power struggle of, I'm the man, you suck, let me buy you a drink, you love me, we're cool.
Right.
It was so odd.
Yeah.
And that was a year I probably wish I can get back, to be honest.
Sure. Wow.
But it was something that helped shape the rest of my career, because a few years of that, and then the end of that year getting a $40,000 tax bill, and I didn't have the money to pay it.
Right.
I got humbled up real quick.
Yeah.
Had no money, $40,000 of taxes, and did it again the next year. I made $350,000, I think it was, $360,000, and now I have a $60,000 tax bill.
Wow.
So I've got over $100,000 in tax debt as a 22, 23-year-old.
Dang, bro.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I wanted to get out. We can go into that story if you want, but I thought I was gonna get out of the business.
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Yeah. No, I get that. And if you're listening to this on 1.5 speed, you need to slow this baby down, because this is where it's gonna get really good. So, I'm gonna rewind a little bit. So you were doing fantasy football things, right? You started to kind of you wanted to be an entrepreneur or an FBI agent,
yes,
or both,
or a writer, yeah,
or writer, right?
Yeah.
When was the first time that you were like, man, and not obviously labeling yourself as an entrepreneur, but the first time you went that route in your mindset of like trying to create revenue from something that you built?
I don't think I ever switched that gear, to be honest.
Yeah.
I never correlated the two until GreenStats.
Sure. Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just was working. I
Okay.
didn't think much. That's a lot of. I'll contribute that to a lot of the success. I didn't think much.
Okay.
I just did.
Yeah.
I needed to think, but I didn't.
So you were basically taking, what we call massive action towards this idea of being rich, or the goals that you had set before yourself. When did that ideology change?
I wasn't even goal oriented at the time.
Okay.
I just saw money coming in.
Yeah.
I knew I could make more of it.
Right.
I just kept making more of it.
Wow.
So like if I with tax debt,
Uh-huh.
The first $40,000 was like, this stings, but I can make it in 3 months. I'm gonna go do it.
Right.
It was no big deal. I paid it. We're good. Not all of it, but I paid enough of it to like get them off my back.
Get them off your back, yeah.
And then the $60,000, I'm like, man, this is different. And now I've got like $100,000 in tax debt.
Yeah.
I paid enough to get them off my back, so let's call it 80, right?
Right.
It's like this is different. This is not the same. So I had to actually get goal oriented at that point.
Okay.
At the end of the year where I made, the $350,000 or $60,000.
Yeah.
And lay out a plan to pay my taxes back. But I didn't do that at first. At first, I panicked and I wanted to get out of the business. That was the first move.
Yeah, because that was the easy. Even though it wouldn't have solved the problem, right? You still would have had that debt.
Yeah.
IRS ain't going anywhere, right?
I had just built our first house too, so it was like a not Fisher, but a dogwood home. So it wasn't like a true build, but we got to pick some stuff.
Sure.
It was cool for us. But my wife and I are in this house, and I'm like, we can't have it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't have any money. I can make more money, but I got to give it to them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have any money.
So how long were you married at that point? Because as a married man, or you were just together?
Yep.
Okay.
We weren't yet.
Gotcha. Wow. Was it? You don't have to, dive all the way in, but was she like freaking out too, or?
Like sort of.
Okay.
Not all the way. She was like internally. Yes.
Sure.
Like I was staying up till 6 a.m. just thinking of ways I can get out of it.
Yeah.
And I remember one night, I like reached over to her. And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna apply for a job at Starbucks.
Wow.
She was like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You can make like $20,000 next month. Why would you go to do that? And no shade at Starbucks whatsoever, but we're talking about two different worlds here. Like,
right.
Like work there, make whatever that would look like, or I can go make $400,000 again.
Right.
And that was a huge moment.
Yeah. Pivotal moment in your life and your together life. For
sure.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I remember, when we first built that house too, there was a point to where I didn't have a lot of business, and I was like, I don't know why you want to be with me. Like but I always thought it was just money. Like I always thought life just revolved around money. Money is all there is. And if you're with someone who doesn't have money, why do you want to be with them?
Yeah.
So I told her that, and she's like, yeah, you don't understand who you are just yet. Like I don't care.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, she did. She told me that at a Cheddar's on Preston Highway, or Outer Loop.
Yeah. So that impacted you, because obviously you can recall the exact time and place.
I'm a 23-year-old or 22-year-old crying at Cheddar's to my now wife.
Right.
Very weird moment for me.
Yeah. Women have a way of, the right woman has a way of bringing that around for you.
For sure.
Yeah.
But, with the whole Starbucks thing and telling her that I'm going to do that, she just rolled over.
Yeah.
I was like,
whatever, dude.
Can't hear this. So I applied for sure. So just for context, I'm making $300,000 or more a year, and I just applied for a Starbucks barista and/or part-time manager job.
Yeah.
And I did it at like 3 a.m.
Because you run a business already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could do that.
Sure.
Let's do it. Who wouldn't? My resume was cool. Like, I'm this young and I'm making this much money, and I've built a team with my dad, and I'm managing relationships already. Why can't I manage a Starbucks coffee shop? So, and it was part-time too. It wasn't even a full-time manager spot. But you had to be like a barista and the part-time manager. That was the position.
Okay.
So I applied, and within 12 hours, man, I woke up the next morning. It was like really afternoon because I stayed up too late. And there was not even a chance to interview. I can't remember what it said, but it was like, no, you're not qualified.
Dang.
I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah, I'm not qualified.
Like, are you joking? And that was my pride again, because I'm like, of course I'm not obviously, looking back at it, I have never worked at a coffee shop.
Right.
I had quit. Like, my resume was bad because I had quit almost 13 jobs in between high school and the time I got my license.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So
I feel that.
My resume was terrible, and I'd never made a coffee before, much less I'm going to manage the coffee shop. But at that time, it was like, that was a direct shot at me again.
Yeah.
It was like another person telling me no.
Yeah.
Like, or you can't do it.
Okay.
So I heard it again. It may not have been my dad's voice this time, but it was somebody else.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie, it took about a month or 2 months of just straight depression, and like, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Business suffered. I'm trying to figure out a way to pay tax debt. I'm like selling cars, and then I had my truck that I paid off. I went and refinanced it to give the IRS some money.
Wow.
And then here's where like the worst part of it came in. The worst decision I think I've ever made. I went to SoFi.com, and I guess it's not your fault, SoFi. But I don't want to like get in trouble here, but I went to SoFi.com and pulled out an 18% interest loan to pay back my taxes when I could have just got a free 0% interest loan from the IRS.
Right.
But I was so scared of the IRS.
Oh yeah, come on.
I didn't even look at my options.
Ask, right?
No, I'm like, they're gonna put me in jail. I'm gonna go to jail tomorrow.
Right.
So I go out and get this huge loan for 18% interest, and the payments are more than my mortgage.
Wow.
And I'm paying. Like, I was like, I felt better though.
Yeah.
I paid my taxes off with that.
Then now you got to pay this back.
Yeah, but I'm over here tricking myself that I paid my taxes off. I was like, yeah, I did it. We're good. We got this now. I can move on.
Dude, you and I can relate so much because that's one of the areas that I've grown so much in my life too, is like, just have the conversation. We have the limiting beliefs we already talked about that I already know what they're going to say, especially as a real estate agent. Like, I'm not going to call even my friends or family because they're never going to buy a house for me. They're never going to let me come sell their home, right?
For sure.
And I just think that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, the tricks we play on ourselves to get us to not do something, like, tricks are for kids. Leave those in the cereal box.
So you're your own worst competitor.
Yeah.
You just are. Own worst enemy, own worst competitor. You're everything.
Right.
You are your only roadblock. That's
awesome. That is nuts. So you got denied, essentially, from Starbucks. Yeah. No shade to Starbucks.
I go there all the time.
I know you go there still.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I actually made all my passwords to everything Starbucks 17 to remind it's no longer that, by the way. So if you're trying to...
Can't hack into your stuff now?
I think you can get into like a couple old CRMs, but have fun. But
your YouTube archives of Louisville Home King?
Yeah, maybe. So Starbucks 17 was like that was gonna fuel me, man. That was it. I would go there all the time. I didn't even have the money to go there, but I would go there all the time, get like the $6 lattes to remind myself that this place denied me. Yeah. All my passwords were Starbucks 17. It was just like, this is my fuel now.
Dude, that is so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So moving on from that, I mean, I'm really into the familial aspect of it. Are you talking to your dad at this point about what's going on, or
yeah, he knew.
Is he kind of just in the dark, or
he knew? I don't think he minds me saying this either, but he was just in as bad of trouble.
Okay,
like we didn't know taxes,
and he said that.
Yeah.
Now that you say that, I know that he's talked about that before.
Yeah.
And that's one of his passions, is helping agents get set up
for sure
in the right space to be able to know what the heck they're doing. For
sure. I mean, I hadn't found a good tax or CPA just yet, and I didn't know anything about it. But that forced me to learn.
Yeah.
Now that I had a huge SoFi loan with 18% interest, I needed to learn taxes so I didn't have to get another one next year.
Right.
I'm not sure they would have given me one though, because
Yeah, you still
had
Can I just have a little bit more?
Yeah, one more year, please. So I said that whole year was about learning how to become a business owner.
Wow.
I was on IRS.gov more than anybody should be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just reading.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was reading.
Right.
I just wanted to know what I needed to do.
Anything you could pull down from it.
For sure. I interviewed 3 or 4 different CPAs. Each one of them would tell me I couldn't do something, and I would go to the next one.
Yep.
Like, I need to know all the tricks, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And finally, somebody told me, like, hey, get you an LLC, make an S corp, and all of a sudden you're going to save 15% from the self-employment tax.
Wow.
Like, that alone was huge news to me.
Right,
I had just paid 38%, 38.5%, whatever it was for my tax bracket.
Consult your own CPA.
Yes, consult your own CPA. Don't just go get an S corp.
Right.
But I just paid like 30-something% for my tax bracket on top of 15%.
Dang.
So I was like, man, why?
If I had known this last year.
Didn't my SoFi loan could have been cheaper.
Sure.
That's just kidding. But at the same time, no one really talked about that. So learning that, it was frustrating because I was like, why doesn't the brokerage talk about this? Why doesn't the real estate license, just the school in general talk about this?
And taxes.
Like, why are we talking about the random, how to, talk about what did they call it? Meets and bounds for your...
Right.
I
know how many square foot is in an acre.
Yes, but I can't tell you how to pay taxes.
Right.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So school, I think, needs to be revolutionized to help people not get in an issue like I had.
Yeah.
And I'm not the only one who's done this. If you're listening, you probably know someone or maybe the person who has been in this situation or maybe are in it. There's hope, though.
There's hope.
I promise.
Let them know. Spread the hope.
I promise there is. So yeah, that was an interesting point. That whole year was dedicated to making more money because I had to pay off my debts.
Yeah.
And learning everything I could about taxes.
Yeah.
Everything.
Wow.
And that sparks another idea, another segment for GreenStats.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, I had a similar experience last year. I was looking at not IRS, but like similar concept of commercial real estate.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to read every single land development code that I can get my hands on. Because I talked to a buddy of mine that I'd love to have on the podcast at some point, commercial realtor. And he was like, yeah, you really just need to look up the zonings and this and that. And, any opportunity that requires growth, most of them are going to be hard. Right. And then on the flip side of that, you can either quit, but still probably be saddled with the hard thing.
Yeah.
Or you can just figure it out.
Yep.
So I love that you just figured it out.
I didn't know I was figuring it out.
Yeah.
But definitely knew I had to do something.
It was like one step at a time, right? Mm-hmm. People look at the whole elephant, and everybody, that's a
for sure
analogy or whatever that's
one
called.
Bite at a time.
Metaphor.
Yep.
I don't know.
What is it? You can't eat an elephant in one bite. How many? I forgot what it is.
How many bites does it take to eat an elephant?
We know what we're talking about.
I've never eaten an elephant. I'm just using that on the show, but. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, it's just one step at a time, right? Like one brick by brick, whatever it takes, and eventually, maybe how long did that take you to get out of that SoFi? And let me just say this too as a precursor, like. SoFi is probably fine. Like they're
great.
They're not worried about this conversation.
They don't care at all. But I just feel bad saying the because it's not their fault. It's ultimately my fault.
Sure.
But
and ownership, that's a big deal too.
Yeah, for sure. It took a while. One of the first entries into learning taxes and managing your money was actually your last guest, Bobby Harding.
Okay.
I was walking around asking agents like, how do you manage your money? How do you track it? Bobby gives me this super generic spreadsheet that he made.
Mm-hmm.
It just or gross profit, expenses, and net profit. That was it. There was nothing else on it. He's like, hey, fill it out. This will help you start, get started at least.
Yeah.
And that was huge for me. Like, I don't think Bobby realized. I'm not sure I ever told him. I'm not sure I said anything to him about it. But that was a huge moment in my life too.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what a profit and loss was.
Right.
I made $350,000 and didn't know what a profit and loss was.
Wow.
That's embarrassing.
Bananas.
But I did.
Yeah.
And that was my first introduction to a profit and loss there. So that sparked a whole different segment of like, hey, I don't want anyone else to do this. So I want to make this more readily available.
Sure.
Like I want to, learn it. So it took me about 6 months to figure out how to truly do it. And I added stuff to it, took away some things, talked to Bobby a few more times about it, and talked to my CPA who, helped me really get into it.
Right.
Got an S corp, got all that set up. So that whole year, I got everything in place to start paying taxes correctly. Mm-hmm. That's the first time I ever paid estimates too. That year.
Yeah.
I'm like drowning
quarterly?
in debt. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm like drowning in debt, but I'm paying estimated. So I was like, I'm gonna be good for next year, but I'm still screwed for the last year.
Right.
So it took me about a year, and then the next year it was all dedicated to still keeping it, kosher as long as I'm not getting more debt. But I'm slowly paying away like $5,000 here, $6,000 here, but the payment was $2,000 a month.
Wow.
It was like $1,960.
Wow.
So it's more than my mortgage.
Right.
It was a lot more.
Especially then.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was just it was an odd moment or odd couple years that one was like not caring about all the goofy stuff I cared about before with I'm so cool, I make all this money, I'm going to do all this stuff, I'm going to provide for friends and do this and do that.
Right.
To I'm super humble and just got my head down and I got to figure out a way to get out of this misery here.
Yeah.
And it was very hard, but also very rewarding when it was done.
Oh yeah.
So I think 2.5 years in, I paid it all the way off. Wow. The whole 100,000 was gone from SoFi, and I think I cried for like 3 hours that night.
Yeah.
I'm not a crier, but that night I told you twice I've cried now on this podcast.
You say you're not a crier, but now we're gonna camp out of your. No, I'm just
for
kidding.
sure. I think I cried for like 3 hours that night though. That was the biggest up to that date. I keep saying that too because the biggest moment of my life changed every time. But that was the biggest moment of my life up to that date.
That is so cool, man. Yeah, that is so cool. Oh wow, what a story! And I think it's worth mentioning too, like through that brick by brick, and you having to put your head down and work. Like what I believe says, the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few.
For sure.
And so, but not only so you're putting in the work, which allows you to reap that moment, right? That whole moment was worth everything you just endured. But at the same time, you put people around you, right? You interviewed CPAs, and you brought in somebody else, Bobby, to talk to you about, just even what a simple gross minus expenses equals net situation looks like. And I think that's another thing that just like we talked about, it holds people up from accomplishing what they really are trying to go after. Is they think they have to do it all by themselves.
They do. And the simple solution to every problem that you have is who, not how.
Yeah. We talked about that book last week.
Yes, that is it.
Yeah.
That's it. You just said it.
Right. And I told Bobby last week too, like I've been beating my head against the wall for a couple years now on, a team. I've sat down and talked with you. Hey man, what do I do? How do I do this? And, all great advice, but I'm really hard-headed sometimes, and I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so now that, I'm finally setting this up the right way, I'm excited about what that looks like.
Should be.
Yeah, man. Thank you. So natural progression would be to talk about GreenStats.
Yeah.
Because that helps. I love that not only do you care so much about, obviously, your family and, what you want to do, but that you want to give back. And you found a need in the marketplace based off your own perspective and created this thing that our team uses as well called GreenStats. So what is GreenStats?
GreenStats is a lot of things. We're a tweener product that I started. And by the way, this started on a spreadsheet.
Yep.
And I'll tell you a quick story about that too, really quickly. So the initial idea of GreenStats, I go to a developer, and he's like, "This is a terrible idea. No one's ever going to buy it."
Oh, shoot.
You know how that
Set
goes.
you off, bro.
You know how that goes. So, and I kind of believed him at first.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, whatever, man. You're probably right. I don't have the time to do this anyway. So I'm like constantly making notes in the background for a full year and a half, 2 years after he told me no, it's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
And I've got this huge note section of just like all these cool features I would like in an app if I built one. Mm-hmm. And then I remember one day I spent about 3 hours reconciling my spend on Realtor.com. Mm-hmm. So I had all these zip codes, right?
Yep.
So I go in and get the zip codes, how much money I paid for each zip code for the month, how many leads we got in each zip code, and then how many leads we had appointments with, how many leads we converted, and then ultimately closed.
Yep.
So I would do it every month. It would take about 3 or 4 hours. And I was complaining on the way home, for lack of better words, to my wife that it was taking forever.
Did choose a nice word.
Yes, this is it's like this sucks. You know, I don't want to keep doing this. I do it every month. This is annoying. I hate it. I need my app. I didn't even know the app was called yet. But I was like, I need my app. And then I got home. I told her again, and we're getting ready to go out to dinner, and she hit me in the face, man. She was like, verbally. Not,
I was gonna say, do we need to talk to somebody?
Yeah.
Like, no, this is
so she was like,
domestic situation. Or?
Yeah. And she's like the most laid back person ever. So this is it was really pivotal coming from her mouth. But she said, if you don't just shut up and make it, someone else is going to. I was like, come on, man.
Got him.
Yeah. That night I made a Facebook post, and this is also really interesting, but I made a Facebook post that who's a developer I need to know for an app. I don't know how they got my number. Of course, it was everywhere. I'm a real estate agent, but they got like all 3 of my emails, my number, and I was getting inquiries from all around the world about I can build your app for you.
Dang.
I didn't even say what it was yet.
Right.
I don't know how they did this, but obviously they're developers for a reason.
Yeah.
So I'm getting all these inquiries. I interviewed like 30 to 31, 32 app developers. I can't remember. It was just constant Zoom after Zoom after Zoom.
Sure.
I would pitch the idea. One would say something. They'd give me a price estimate. I'd go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. And finally I landed on, I have a lot of stories, Chris.
Dude, I love it. Because I'm a story guy too, but that's what actually helps people understand.
Yeah.
And explain things.
Well, I finally landed on a guy who came from a referral from a client of mine that I met on a sign call on my dad's listing in Norton Commons.
Do you hear this guy? Like, the fact that Cheddar's at and, you know, I met the client at a sign call. And I love how your mind works in these types of situations. That's why you're such a good team leader and real estate agent. Please continue.
Thank you. So I got a sign call, and I did a terrible job, I think. I went out to the house. I got, like, pimples all over my face. Yeah. I'm showing $1 million house. I'm wearing this, like, cheap Kohl's blazer that I'm way too big for me.
Hey, don't hate on the Kohl's blazer, bro.
I love it. I still have it. But it was way too big for me. My dad bought it for Christmas. He was like, you need to look more professional. I'm wearing like hoodies, the listing appointments. So
Bengal cities?
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately they lost. But
sorry.
I've got this huge blazer. I look like an idiot, I think, in my perspective. And I've got all these pimples on my face, and I'm stuttering. Yeah. Like, this guy is so professional. He's whipping things off. He's a huge lawyer in town. And I thought I botched it. Yeah. And the guy calls me back. He's like, I want to see some more houses. I was like, are you serious?
Wow.
I thought I screwed that up.
Yeah.
Anyway, it turned into a huge listing, a huge purchase. And he's ultimately my attorney today for everything I do, personal, business, whatever. He's my attorney.
Yeah.
And he gave me a referral to this app developer called Samyaton. And they're amazing people, housed here in Louisville and in India.
Okay.
And we started building the app for GreenStats. All awesome. The things I wanted to build were in this huge spreadsheet and file. And we just start picking away at it and start building and developing.
Yeah.
And that was a 2-year process.
Wow. Yeah. So, man, so much to unpack in there too. But, like, one of the things I also want to touch on is, again, something else I believe, write the vision, make it plain, although it will tarry, can come to pass. So, like, you had a 1.5 years worth of notes of, this is something that I want to do. This is something I feel like needs to be created. And then, you know, essentially your better half said, if you don't do this, somebody else is going to do it.
For sure.
Which pushed you again into action and creation.
Absolutely. And to be fair, like, the idea wasn't proprietary.
Right.
Like, this is just, I just wanted to put something together that, you know, people could use and make it easier on themselves.
Right.
Like, there's other apps out there to do it, QuickBooks, FreshBooks, all this stuff. But, like, at the end of the day, like, it's not realtor specific, and we wanted to include your production. Like, how can you track your true profit from your team along with your true profit and loss?
Right.
Because there's a difference.
Right.
You can make money on a team and then have to give some back to the office and then another agent and then all these things that happen. And you have all these expenses and you're like, you look down, you're like, oh my God, I made 80 grand, but really I made 20.
I feel that.
What most realtors don't realize, and I think that stunts their growth, is they don't realize where the 60 grand went. From the 80 to the 20, where'd it go?
Right.
Because you could probably cut off 20 or 30 grand of that. I can look at any profit and loss right now and tell you to save 20 grand.
Yeah.
As long as you're spending too much money.
Right. Yeah.
If you're
not
already
spending anything, then
if you're already good at it, I can't tell you that. Yeah. But if you're spending money at all, we could probably save you some money.
Sure.
And that's where I wanted to really teach people how to at least understand the business side of it. Because real estate is awesome. It's transactional. You do all these things.
Yep.
But if you don't focus on that business side, probably not going to be in business.
Right. 100%.
That's the harsh truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Man. So having that action to take action, or having the mindset to take action, and then, now this thing is built. Again, I said we use it because the frustrations that you had are the same ones that so many agents, and I know you go around speaking to people and
for sure.
Demoing the app and everything, demoing the program. We go through a lot of the same stuff together. And that's what's cool too, is like you said, it wasn't proprietary, and you didn't just create Coca-Cola, right?
No, not at all.
You created, what RC or whatever. It's like a spin-off of what already exists, but it's more aligned with what people are, what their headaches are, and
for sure
fulfilling that need in the marketplace.
Absolutely. So, I remember at our office, we used to have to pay like $150 to have someone set up our QuickBooks for us.
Yeah.
That just seems outrageous to me.
Yeah.
That it's not already able to. Of course, they're not making it for realtors though either.
Right.
But I don't want to use a system that I have to be taught how to use.
Yep.
That's just my. And of course, with GreenStats, you're gonna have to learn how to use it too.
Sure.
It's not just the easiest thing in the world. However, it's easy enough.
Right.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Easy enough.
No, I can do it.
Good.
He's much better at it. Shout out to the corner, just like last week. But he's much better at it. I do think, and it's just so cool talking to you because I'm a high I, high D personality. I think what makes you so special and so good at what you do is that you can see from each different, quadrant of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So you can see okay, not only what do I want, which is a high D, how can it help people, high I, what needs to be done for it to be created, and then now I can troubleshoot things as well. So that's you're just an implementer at your core, which I love.
I am, and that's where which is cool. And I'll say this too. You realize sometimes that you are good at that, and that is what you really need to be doing. Mm-hmm. Then you also, the inverse of that is I shouldn't be the one running some of these companies I've started.
Yep.
And I've this year it's the last 6 months. I've really realized that for several.
Yeah.
So I would say this: if you're a realtor and you're wanting to get into tracking your production, your pipeline, your commissions, and your profit and loss, if you join GreenStats now, the roadmap is going to be really fun because someone else is going to run this, and I'm just going to build.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's what you enjoy the most.
Absolutely.
Is the building aspect.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So taking, your strength and what you enjoy and putting yourself in that lane to be successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And again, that this stuff takes time, and anybody who's listening, I've done all the tests. Yeah. I've done the DISC assessment. I've done strength finders.
Yeah.
I've done KPAs.
Yeah.
I've done Enneagrams. By all accounts, I'm an achiever at my core.
For sure.
And so if I'm not achieving on the trajectory that I want to be on as quickly as I want to do it, I'll quit.
Yeah.
And that's what's really hard for me. And that's why, one, people are so important to have around you. Because now when I tell Will something that I want to do, he holds me accountable. Right?
That's awesome.
But then also having, knowing what your strengths are and what you're good at, and having those people around you to help. I heard this on a podcast this week. Delegate to elevate.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, oh, I love that. Right? Because
that's a good one.
What I do not enjoy, he does.
Yeah. And
you think I don't want to burden somebody else with this, but it's actually what they're really good at, and they want to do it. Right?
For sure.
So don't be intimidated if you hear the amazingness of Travis and everything that he's doing, and because it's nuts, right? Even for me, and I've known you for a few years. When you have a vision and you have something that you want to accomplish, and you feel like you're going to do whatever it takes to get there, you'll be successful.
For sure.
If I told you, hey, it would take you, and it basically has, right? If I told you, hey, it would take 5 years to create GreenStats and get it up and running, at the very beginning, most people would quit because they're like, oh, I don't want to invest 5 years into this.
Right.
Rather than saying, oh, I know, okay, great, awesome. At the end of 5 years, I'll be successful.
Yeah, and I wish someone would have told me, because I probably would have done it differently.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about tech, and this is another conversation for a later day probably, but it's just it changes all the time. Like,
right.
Your timelines change.
Right.
They move.
Yep.
It's never when you want it to be.
Yeah.
So going into it, I realized it was going to be a long time.
Sure.
And we still have a long road to go.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for it, but I wish I would have known how crazy the timelines shift.
Right.
It can go from, you were ready to get it done, and then a year later you're like, we're not out yet.
Obsolete.
What is going on?
Yeah.
Not even obsolete. Just, that too. That's another problem. You have to build quick enough to keep up with the changes in the market. But
so that's why they release an iPhone every single year.
Exactly. Yeah. They're just keeping your mind busy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's awesome, dude. Oh man, I love this. Okay, so I want to talk about one more thing because I think it's super important. We've hit on so many different pillars as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. Mindset, drive. One of the things we haven't really touched on just yet is how good you are at cultivating and maintaining relationships. If you are a business owner or real estate agent, I've been frustrated with just about every place that I've worked because I didn't feel valued and appreciated.
Right.
So can you talk about, you mentioned you run the team now.
I do, yeah.
Your dad has stepped out. He actually did he start his own team?
He did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you have and I just know them, right? How long has Slava worked with you?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
For a real estate team, that is very, very rare.
Yeah, for sure.
And so can you, again, talk about how you recruit is the easiest word to use, but how you get in touch and cultivate relationships, and then how you're able to maintain them to provide enough value for somebody like Slava to stay.
For sure. That's a good question. So I think of recruiting as a dirty word sometimes. Yep. Like it's more about sharing their experience.
Yep.
So like you build this experience someone said this to me one time. It made a whole lot of sense. Like Ritz-Carlton doesn't, like, no one cares about that name, right? And no one even realizes what the logo is, by the way. Do you know what the logo is?
Is it still just like text?
No.
Okay.
It's a lion with a pitchfork through its head.
I had no idea.
You don't care, though, because you associate the experience with Ritz-Carlton with something that's lavish and wonderful, right? Yeah. So no one even cares what the brand is.
Yep.
So that's why when you're recruiting and you're talking about sharing experience, like, you've got to create an experience so good on your team that no one even cares what the name is anymore. Yeah. No one cares what the splits are. No one cares what the leads are, whatever. It's the experience that the opportunity that you're giving to create a wonderful experience for themselves. So when I set out to start recruiting, I was terrible at it because I would call someone like, hey, do you want to join my team? Like, what do you say?
Right.
We're so good at this. I feel like I sounded really cocky and arrogant all the time when I was doing it. And the reality is I should have never been doing it in the first place. Instead of recruiting, I would go teach classes. I would get on panels. I would be on a podcast. I would try everything to get my name out there and talk about an experience that I was having and or building. Right. And inevitably, every single time, someone came up afterwards and would say something. Yeah. Our best 4 agents all came from a class I did. Wow. All of them.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
And they're all still with me today.
Yeah.
Now we've had several really good agents come and go as well. The attrition rate of real estate is high.
It's crazy. Yeah.
But we've had a lot of agents come from classes and or hearing me say something, or someone else saying this person talks about this and they're really good at this. You should go talk to them. Yeah. So I've never really, I still to this day do not pick up the phone and cold call realtors. Yeah. I wish I were good at it, but I'm not.
Well, even if you were, it's such a different, because I said the same thing literally in our sales meeting last week. I said, and this was straight out of Tony Robbins. Like, I'm not smart enough a lot of times to come up with the stuff that I say on this show or anywhere else. Like, most of the time I just pull things from other people. But I was listening to one of his podcasts, and, essentially I told the team, the few agents that we have, I said, this team is based around relationships.
Absolutely.
If you want to go, if you only care about transactions, and this is business, period, right? And I think realtors don't think they're running a business, but you are, even if you're just by yourself.
For sure.
Right? But then when you start adding other people and other lives and other situations into the mix, like if your relationships aren't strong, it's not going to last.
Mm-mm.
It's really not. And people are going to come and go anyway, right?
For sure.
But that is something that really struck a chord with me is like, hey, our culture is relationships.
Yeah.
And if we said it in the group meet yesterday, it's like, hey, I need somebody to show for me. Hey, can you do this open house for me? And when you have collaboration at its highest level like that, that's when you know you have a great culture.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a huge moment for every real estate team is trying to figure out how to get that collaboration you're talking about right there.
Yep.
Because that's when they stay, but two, when you see the opportunity, the experience, and now you've actually experienced the experience.
Yep. Because you got to communicate the vision still as the CEO of the organization.
Always.
Right? Like, yeah, they're joining a real estate team because they want to do well, make money, find success,
sure.
Whatever that looks like for that person. Everybody's different. But at the same time, if that team is built on transactions, probably not going to last.
I think a lot of people mess up too, and they think like, especially as leaders, we think that like they're joining our team because of me.
Right.
I'm the reason why they joined.
Yep.
It could be that could be further from the truth. They're joining because they see that you have some success.
Right.
They see that you have an experience that you're building. You may not be able to communicate it very well just yet, but they think, wow, this person makes this much money. If I go join them, I'll make that much money.
Right.
So it's not you.
Yeah.
It's not what you're doing.
Right.
It could be. That could be an influence, reason for sure. Mm-hmm. But if you're just out there racking up transactions and you think, well, I'm me, they're going to come.
Yeah.
By the way, I've thought like that before. I have thought like that often.
Yeah.
And just a couple of years ago, I stopped. But that is a huge thing that you need to at least hear yourself do.
Yep.
And change it.
Love it.
Because it's all about the experience, not you.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, your leads, your sphere, your transactions, they don't care about you. They have a specific goal.
Right.
And they probably do care about you. But I'm just saying this to motivate you. They've got a specific goal, right? Everybody has something they want to do. They need to get something first before they give you something, right? So once you realize that quicker, I think real estate, recruiting, selling homes becomes so much easier because you're just facilitating someone getting what they want. And in return, you will be rewarded. Well,
it becomes organic. It's not this thing that you really like. If you are who you are, you will attract who you are.
For sure.
And that's, I met Jonah at a barbershop.
Yeah.
Will and I have been friends for a long time. He called me up a couple years ago. Hey, what does it look like to get into real estate?
Yeah.
Shanna on our team, I don't even really know. I think I did call her for, actually, yeah, she does, why am I blanking so hard right now? She'll do mobile closings. And so I called her about doing a closing for me.
Yeah.
And, we just talked, right?
So same thing. You're not.
Same thing. I'm not pitching you about the team.
Yeah.
If you have questions, I will answer them.
Yeah.
But I'm not like hard selling somebody on, because they can go find somebody else that does the same thing.
For sure.
Well, or even better, to be honest. Like,
you've put off the experience, though. In some way, shape, or form, you've communicated, whether you realize or not, that this is the experience that we're building.
Right.
And those people you tell me if I'm wrong over here, but those people are seeing that and wanting to join for that reason. It's not because you're Chris Dye. Right. I think you're amazing, by the way. But
so flattering.
I'm not sure, that's the only reason why they're joining, right? So you just said it, you're giving off that experience where you're having these relationships with people who are just like, I want this, I need this.
Yeah.
You're helping facilitate that, and now you've got this huge experience that they just let off.
Right.
That's cool. That's I think that's the best way to build a team.
I think that's why I've always been so connected to what you're doing. Like why I want to know is just like you said, I never realized it until just now, but the experience that you give off.
Yeah.
And how you treat people and how they reciprocate that treatment for you, right? They care about you and they work hard.
For sure.
So shout out to Slava and Impact Homes Group Livian, and
Slava.
I think, is that how you say it now, or is it?
It changes all the time.
Okay.
Man. It's whatever. Just call me. I'm Travis.
Okay. Shout out to Travis.
Our team is our team. We all. That's the cool thing about our team too is you can call anyone on our team, and they're not going to talk about our cool brand and all this stuff that we have, all these great leads.
Right.
They're going to talk about the community, the fit,
yes,
and how well we work together.
Love it.
That's the cool part about it. Our name could be Doorknob Realty.
Right.
I'd still sell the crap out of some houses.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. Love it. It's not all about that. And I've had those same misconceptions, like, oh, I gotta have the perfect name and the sweetest logo.
For sure.
That's not what it's about.
The last thing I'll say is if you are spending time on your email signature, your business cards, your website, you're doing it wrong already.
Yep.
Get in there and call some people and make relationships.
Absolutely. Build relationships. Absolutely. Well, cool, man. Been my pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, man.
Really appreciate it. I started doing this last week, just a kind of a rapid fire. Can't say who, not how for this first one, but first thing that comes to your mind, your favorite books or a book that you've read recently that's helped change your mindset or business.
Profit First.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah. I love that one.
Yeah. That would make sense as to why you created a tech company that talks about profit.
For sure. Profit First is an easy one for me.
Okay.
I'm going to be biased and say the MREA as well. I mean, it's like the cheat code on how to run a business.
Build a team, run a business.
It really is. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'll be honest, I don't read a lot of books.
Sure.
I'll listen to some books.
Okay.
But the ones that I thought I had to listen to and read were Profit First and MREA.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I can't tell you if I finished one or not.
Okay.
To be quite honest with you.
That's okay. I mean, I don't necessarily, it's very, very hard for me to sit down and have the time to actually read a book. So I'm an Audible guy or a podcast guy.
Yeah. I just want to get up.
Yeah.
I'm too jittery to read a book, I think.
Yeah.
And I also just like to listen, so.
Love it. Awesome. Best advice for new agents and experienced agents?
New agents, I gave it away already. Quit worrying about your logo, your email, your signature, your business cards, your website, whatever.
Yep.
Literally get on Facebook and start liking and commenting on all of the people who you think might refer you.
Love it.
Make a video once a week about real estate. Let people know you're actually a realtor. Yep. Secret realtors never make money, by the way.
Don't be a secret agent. Right?
No. So there's the blueprint for you. Go out and like, comment, share, engage with the people who you think might work with you and or refer you, and make a video once a week. I promise you'll make money.
Love it.
I promise.
Love it. Experienced agents.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Get in touch with your database.
Yeah.
Like if you're not touching your database at least 60 times a year, I eventually will.
Ooh, he's coming for you. Yeah. Love it.
We'll eventually get in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Absolutely. I love that. That's that fire right there. All right. What was your very first W-2 job?
McDonald's. I was 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bobby's was Subway. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, he told me that last week. I didn't know that either.
I was 15 doing football practice and going straight to McDonald's and then going back home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you sneak some food? Did they let you get some for free?
Yeah, I was the worst worker ever, man.
Apple pies?
Yeah. Apple pie, sweet teas.
Fire, bro.
I probably ate and drank my wage.
I don't even really like McDonald's, to be honest, anymore.
Yeah.
But those apple pies hit different.
They were great.
They were good. Awesome, bro. Well, again, thank you so much for coming. We will have you on again. There was stuff that I wanted to talk about
for sure
that we didn't get to.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I love it. And so you're coming back, and
cool.
Maybe next time you'll be the man, the myth, and the legend.
That'd be cool.
We'll see.
Yeah.
How can people contact you if they want to get a hold of you?
I'll give you my phone number, 502-424-6873. You can go to GreenStats.com to learn more about GreenStats. You can go to ImpactHomeSearch.com to talk about our team. And GreenCheckMortgageSolutions.com to get in touch with our mortgage broker.
You want to get pre-approved?
Yes.
Yeah, that's an important step.
Absolutely.
You got to do it.
He's a great guy, by the way. His name is Josh Cornett. Super great guy. Super informative. He's already entrenched into our team in our office, and it's been amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Great guy.
You're at that level to be able to create those relationships too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really cool, man.
Thank you.
Super proud of you, man.
Thanks, dude.
I don't know how much that means coming from me, but that's awesome.
It means a lot from everybody. Thank you.
There you go. I love it. Humble.
Yeah.
Got that humble back. Awesome. Well, guys, continue to follow us for next week. Something I haven't said is if you are enjoying the show, we have a lot of people listening now, which is really cool. Please subscribe on YouTube, rate the show. I haven't asked for any reviews or anything. If you want to hop on and give us a review, we would very much appreciate that. We're pretty much on every platform you can possibly imagine. So please don't hesitate to continue to follow us and learn some awesome stuff from the guests that we have. And so I'll leave you with this. You have a gift. It's time to grow in it.